Hey guys, what's up? It's QualityDeDe time again, and today the topic we're going to discuss is Bleach, spirituality, metaphysics, and just whatever, some add-on stuff that I decided. But before we get into the whole thing, I'm just going to give you the disclaimer. This isn't about any specific kind of religious preference or anything. It's just my perspective from my understanding of religion, spirituality, and metaphysics, and my outlook on this in this manga and anime, Bleach. So please bear with me and check out the intro. When I look down at my notes down here, I can see that I have a lot of stuff that I was trying to jot down, but I just got really angry and decided to just go straight forward and make this video. But the first thing I'm going to address in Bleach is death. It's really interesting, the concept of death in Bleach. What does it mean to die? If you die as a human, your soul can either, this is what happens to your soul, you either go straight to hell, you go to the soul society, or you become a hollow, right? Now, throwing hell aside, because we know that you can't die no more in hell, so that's the final place of your soul, hell, if you decide, or if your soul goes to soul society or becomes a hollow, what then? You still are able to die. Your soul progresses to the soul society, and I'm going to talk about the soul society later, and then you're still susceptible to dying once again. Your spirit still can die. Does it mean that dying in Bleach is the eradication of your soul completely, even as a hollow after you've become a Vastalord, or even on your rise to becoming a Vastalord, that you have to die when a Soul Reaper or another hollow kills you? You die twice? Or did you even die in the human world to begin with? Or did you just transfer consciousness? What really does it mean to die in Bleach? Because it's really confusing. What does it mean? It's very confusing, especially for characters like Tosin, Gin, Byakuya, Kira, Sasakibe, Jinryusai, all of these characters that died. What happened to them? I know they died before in the human world, and now they're Soul Reapers and they died again. But are they gonna die again in another realm or place in Bleach that we don't understand yet? What does it mean to die? It's the weirdest thing. The explanation that we're given on Bleach is that Soul Reaper's job are to cleanse the pool of existence. So there's a cycle that happens. So does it mean that all of these people, all of these characters, all of these non-characters, say Hollows and Soul Reapers and just souls in general, when they die from the Soul Society or from Huecamundo or anywhere, that these souls just become once again a part of this pool? Does the soul can reincarnate? Or is that the end of it? It's so unclear. Is it that the soul transformed into a new being, into something different, and then becomes a part of the human being again? It's weird. Come on, Bleach. Come on, Kubo. You're freaking us out. The next thing I'm going to touch up on is, as I have it written down here, does the concept of God exist in Bleach, or is there a God in Bleach? Well, my answer to that is that obviously there is a God in Bleach for two reasons, and I'll get into the two reasons why, but the reason basically stems on your perception of God. But the concept of God, I wouldn't say yes to, because it's never, except for Aizen wanting to become God by killing the Soul King, it's never really addressed. We can't even say with absolute certainty that the Soul King is even God himself. But the reason why I say God exists in Bleach is, one, if you believe that God, let me check out my notes. If you believe that God is a spiritual being that rules over all existence and has everlasting life, and he's the supreme, he has supreme power, then okay, God's in Bleach. He's the Soul King from what we know, right? That's one reason why I think God's in Bleach. But if you're more like me, that believes that God is this entity that pre-exists the universe, that he's beyond human comprehension and understanding because he himself is infinite and unlimited consciousness. However, humans are limited and finite. You get what I'm saying? We can't ever be able to understand God without anthropomorphizing him or saying that he is something when in actuality he isn't. He isn't anything in this universe. The universe itself is a fleeting thought in God's mind. Get what I'm saying? Religions serve as a medium to say what God is. But it's not even a good example. Some show good avatars in people like Jesus, Moses, Muhammad, Zoroaster, Buddha, and other religions, but they don't quite touch exactly what God is. Which will show you that the same chaos that happens in this world that feels like immorality and cruelty also happens in Bleach. And that doesn't stop people in this world from believing in God. And I'm sure that God exists in that world as well. This is more and more contemporary religious style, this question here. I have, what is the purpose? No. Is the soul society heaven, or what is its spiritual purpose? Well, obviously the soul society isn't heaven. The reason why, because in every spiritual scripture it says that in heaven you are free of death and you have eternal peace and happiness. And in the soul society, it's clear that you still can die even if you're a really powerful soul reaper or just one of the random souls that live in the Reupload district. And of course, there's suffering. There is tremendous suffering. In soul society, they just don't show it. Most of the people in the Reupload district, if you pay attention closely to Bleach, are poor and they live in shacks. So obviously the soul society is no heaven, and it basically has no spiritual value whatsoever. Maybe it could serve as a purgatory between the living world and I would say heaven and hell. But then it makes no sense for places like Wakamundo to exist. It seems as though the creator Taite Kubo, or the concept that he's giving, is, for me, my understanding is that Soul Society's main purpose is to exist so that the Shinigami have a domain. Simply that. It has no spiritual purpose or value whatsoever to the overall world of Bleach. Soul Society is just stupid. If the Soul King is in charge of creating it, then the Soul King is, by my definition, a tyrant for creating nonsense. There is no heaven, yet there is a hell. Or unless there's a dimension that the Soul King lives in, that is this heaven. And maybe we'll see characters like Byakuya, Tosin, and the rest of those in that heaven. And that would be incredibly cheesy, because I don't really want to see those characters again. I just need to know what happened to them. But yeah, it's that kind of thing. The world of Bleach is that mysterious, yet it's supposed to be a spiritually comprehensible manga and anime, and it's not. Now, this topic I felt really, really passionate about when it came to spirituality and the concept of Bleach and everything. And I have it written down as, what is the purpose for non-Shinigami? Like, their purpose in life. Looking at it from a spiritual sense. And honestly, from reading all the chapters of Bleach that I've seen, and all of the episodes so far, it's clear that the purpose for every other being in the world of Bleach, aside from Shinigami, is to suffer. It's simply, as a human, follow the human experience on Bleach. You live a life much like the lives we live on Earth today, where there is suffering, there is death. There is all of the tragedies that we know of that I won't even touch on. And at the end of that, you die and you re-enter an existence. Whether it's in Wakamundo, if you decide to be a hollow, or Soul Society. But let me touch Wakamundo because it's really quick to go through, and then I'll touch Soul Society. And in Wakamundo, it's a battle for your consciousness. You fight to constantly progress, to become a Vasto Lord where you have complete consciousness and strength, and then what? To be hunted down by soul reapers? To be killed? To be cleansed? What the hell is that? Now, Soul Society. The soul goes to Soul Society where you live in the Rukon district facing poverty. Come on, living in shacks. No spiritual development whatsoever, no purpose of being in Soul Society whatsoever, except simply to be there to suffer and to be bait for hollows, so that the soul reapers could attack them. It's suffering. And take the concept of the Quincy's, for example. The Shinigami have a quarrel with the Quincy's. I don't know the deeper reasoning between their fights with the Quincy's, but it said that the Quincy's disrupt the balance, the flow of life, because they completely destroy hollow souls or their enemies. And to be honest, what does that mean? That the Shinigami have a right to destroy the Quincy's? That their life, their existence, their powers means nothing? That they're only subject to suffering? What are you doing, Soul King, if you are the god of this universe? Or is it some different transcendental entity that's in control? What are you doing? You allow only the Shinigamis to have a prominent existence in this world, and everybody else to simply be suffering. All the antagonists on Bleach, whether it's the Aranka or the Quincy's or some filler antagonists like the Bounce, I feel as though their plight is called for. They simply want to exist on their terms, and the entire universe, the Soul King or whoever this God concept is on Bleach, is causing them to have struggles both in life and this supposed death. It's pathetic. Now I'm going to hit on something very metaphysical and deep. It's consciousness. What does Bleach say about the nature of consciousness, of your being, you'd say your soul, or whatever you want to call it? It sends off some really confusing messages if you dive deeply into understanding it. For example, Shinigami have their individual soul that they know and are in control of, but they also have this interconnected soul of their Zanpakuto spirit. Is this a part of their consciousness that is untapped, or is it a separate consciousness that attaches itself to a Shinigami upon birth? What does this say about their being, their consciousness? Does the soul of this Zanpakuto follow them during their human lives, and then when they die, it's awakened as a soul? Or is it that even when they die, like other characters that die on Bleach, I'm not going to rephrase their names like Tosin, Byakuya, and the rest, that the soul also follows them to another existence, a supposed heaven? Or is that the end of that soul, that consciousness, and everything? You have characters that, like Ichigo, that has his own individual consciousness that we know as Ichigo, Hollow Ichigo, and Zangetsu. Are all of these part of one individual being? Or are they separate consciousness that come together or attach themselves to this Ichigo consciousness? It's very, 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 very confusing. on the plight of a Ranka or a Hollow. You are first a human soul, and then you die, and then you decide to eat other souls, and then you become a Hollow, and then eventually a Manos, and then if you retain your consciousness, or I guess your understanding, then you go on to progress by becoming an Ajukas and then eventually a Vastolord. But that's just one individual consciousness. What about the other conscious individuals that Hollow eats? What is of their consciousness? Does it just become a reishi? Is it just a part of this universal nothingness? Or what happens to the consciousness of the other individuals that are consumed by that single consciousness? What is that? It's spiritually confusing and depressing. It's depressing. The entire world of Bleach is depressing. If you ask me, the Shinigami should just be destroyed, and you should kill the Soul King, because he is basically the creator and supreme ruler of chaos, of nothingness. Still on more metaphysical notes, and probably the last thing that I'm going to talk about, maybe, is, of course, Aizen. What does Aizen mean if you look at him from a spiritual, metaphysical context? Aizen can be seen as a personification of our ego. No matter how you break down Aizen's goals, his desires, they're always what he wants. He wants to be God. He wants to destroy the Soul King. I have my reasons why I can't blame him for wanting those things, but he's an expression of our ego. He's an expression of our want. Ever since he was born, he was this supreme power. And in a sense, Aizen might just be testing himself to see how far he can take his being, how far he can actually go, and which is what the ego wants us to do, to essentially focus on ourselves, because we're the most important thing to this universe and this existence. And that's the vibe that I get from Aizen. He doesn't feel like anyone or anything are as important as himself or his goals and his existence. So he's an egotistical megalomaniac that monologues all the time, and is a really good personification of our ego, what we could possibly become. But why I feel like Aizen is a really good character for Bleach, even though people say he's trolled and overpowered, and I think that he's the overall complete villain of Bleach, is because I want Aizen to expose the Soul King. The Soul King, like I said, is the supreme ruler of chaos. If Aizen is a smart fellow, and he did ask Urahara, if I'm not mistaken, I can't remember on what chapter, why are you a lapdog to the Soul King, to that man? Maybe Aizen's smart enough to detach himself from the entire universe of Bleach and see what I see as an individual looking at it from a human anime perspective. Maybe he's able to see that this existence that the Soul King allows to facilitate is flawed. It's chaos. Maybe he wants to create a new existence where this chaos and just pure utter nonsense exists. I'm one of Aizen's fans because I want to see the ethical, moral, spiritual, and metaphysical answer to the entire world of Bleach. Because if you look at it from a stronger perspective, it isn't about the struggle of Ichigo. It's about the struggle of an entire universe that's going on. And essentially everyone is held hostage by these Shinigami, by the Gotia 13. You're being held hostage into an existence of suffering by them and this entity known as the Soul King, or maybe a higher entity than the Soul King, that allows places like Soul Society, hell and Wakamundo to exist, rather than making things very simple and allowing humans to exist, then die, and then either get closer or become higher level beings or lower level beings, depending on their will, their fruition, rather than just pain and being subject to the laws of, I don't even know what to call them because they're not physics, to the laws of pain, the laws of Bleach. But as Buddha once said, life is suffering. And as I'll say about my spiritual understanding of Bleach and its metaphysics, is that Bleach is suffering. Bleach is suffering. I hope you guys really like this video. I'd like for you to just rate, comment, subscribe, and just let me know what you think about the overall concept of this video. What you thought that I could touch upon, because there's a lot more that I could touch upon on this topic when it comes to Bleach, but I would prefer to just have this out and then just move on to something else. But just let me know what you think, whether it's a video response, whatever. Just let me know what you think. Sayonara, mi gentes.